month of February. Today's topic is MMOs in TAW, the divisions that never sleep. The presentation today is going to be given by the Star Wars leadership, division leaders Qui-Gon Jinn, Juice, and Zoloft. And in a second here, we will hand off the mic to them for the presentation. They're going to post the presentation link in the channel so that you can all get ready to view that. Just a few house rules. Please keep the chat in the TAW University tab on the bottom to a minimum. We want to keep that for questions and comments. Not too much joking, but have fun if you want. We'll be having a TAW University next month. We'll be letting you know what the topic is on the blog, so stay tuned for that. Don't forget about TAW Academy, which is on the 1st of March. All these are on the events calendar, and we look forward to having you here. Without further ado, I'm going to hand it to Qui-Gon Jinn and Zoloft, and they're going to introduce the topic.
Great, Tara. Thanks. Hydration didn't go so well. As Tara said, I'm Qui-Gon Jinn and Juice. Today, Zoloft and I are going to be hopefully sharing with you lessons that we've gained through our experience in the past 2-3 years or so of working in all sorts of different facets through a complex, challenging environment that's an MMO game. Not everyone in TAW might be familiar with MMOs, so we'll give you a little bit of a background on some of the unique challenges, but also cool things that our game brings to the table, or our genre brings to the table. And our goal is, through this, we can present some of our principles, structures, and guiding ideas which have helped us to grow our division, continue to evolve as the game and as our membership demands, and enable us to have staying power and be pretty successful. So if you want to follow along with me, just real quickly, I'll show off our agenda.
User in your channel timed out.
We'll talk a little bit about setting goals, unit structure and organization, the importance of recruiting, teams as a vehicle of member retention, the important principle of working with your game, utilizing trial and error, developing structures and routines for leadership, and then we'll recap with big picture perspective, making sure everybody stays contextualized and grounded in what's important.
User left your channel. Over.
So just briefly, we called this the divisions that never sleep because a massively multiplayer online game really is active around the clock. There's massive servers up perpetually with players on at all times in the persistent world. Somebody's always on at some point in time playing, and your members could very well have
User entered your channel.
diverse schedules amongst them. We have people who are midday players who might work night shifts. We have people who are really active on the weekends but busy during the week. There's a lot of variety there, and it's a challenge, but it's also a unique opportunity. The importance is understanding when your members are playing and active, as well as when other people on the server are active. MMOs don't happen in isolation. You're part of a server community, part of a larger whole, and it's important to always have your finger on the pulse of that place of how you fit in. Mandatories are great. We get our people together every week for our mandatory, but with an MMO, there's a lot more that happens outside of it, and for a 100-200 person division, it's not feasible to engage everyone fullest just through the mandatory. We'll have something fun, something open to the large community for that, but your players' main activities, player versus player war zones, there's a starfighting ship combat module, player versus environment, whether it's dungeons, raids, those are done in 4, 8, or 16 person groups, much smaller, contained, and a lot of times done for longer dedicated stretches of time. the MMO is a great game that can serve a diverse array of player interests, but it means that as leadership you have to understand what those different facets are and be ready to cater to them and structure your activities to get members doing what they want to do. With that kind of foundation in place, Zolof's going to talk a little bit about how, from big picture leadership, we build that foundation.
All right, hey everybody, I'm Zoloft. So I'm going to talk a little bit about long-term planning and how to get from point A to point B. How do you get from first spin up, couple of drill instructors, all the way to having like a 200-person guild with all different types of teams and things that people are doing 24/7. You can't get there overnight. You have to do it step by step. So the first thing that you got to ask yourself here in the beginning is, what kind of guild do you want? Do you want to have a huge dual faction guild with PvE teams, PvP teams, you know, siege warfare type stuff, specialized stuff, hardcore people, casual people? Or do you want to be a smaller specialized guild that only focuses on a certain area? Do you want to be a PvE guild? Do you want to be server firsts, world firsts in operations? You know, do you want to be a large casual community guild that everybody hangs out and has a good time and doesn't really focus too hard on the content? So all these questions are things that you got to ask. You know, what is it the kind of guild that you're looking for, and what are the members wanting? You know, if you have in your initial recruiting process when you're in Vanguard, if you have, you know, 20 people who are way hardcore about the game and they're PvPers or something like that, and they want to get on PvP leaderboards or they want to be dominating people, you got to go to what they're wanting to do, because you got to take care of those members, right? So the real question in the beginning when you're kind of first spinning up is, where do I want to be and how do I get there? So we didn't become, you know, 200 plus members with all these different teams overnight. That is not a thing. You have to start from the very beginning. So one of the more tried and true strategies to getting where you want to go and getting big and spanning multiple factions is you start small. So you take your team that you have and you say, what do you like to do? What faction do you want to be on? And you start from there. So you start with one faction and you start with whatever activities those people like to do and get together and have a solid team right off the bat, and that groups up regularly throughout the week. And you have that consistency, and then you grow and you grow and you grow and you recruit your butt off. And then eventually you get to the point where on that one faction you are healthy and there are lots of people and there's a vibrant community atmosphere going on. And then you take some of those dedicated people that you started out with, and you take some of those dedicated people that you recruited from the outside, and you say, all right guys, do you want to start a new project? So for example, if you had an ops guild, a raid guild, right, like just raiding only, and didn't have a real big PvP presence, you start with those raiders, and chances are, if you guys are recruiting and getting to a healthy size, about 40, 50, something like that, there are going to be people that are in your group that are also PvPers. And so you ask, hey, are any of y'all maybe interested in branching out and forming a PvP squad? And that's how it begins. One common error that is made is that people try to do everything all at once, and you can't do that because everybody is going to be spread way too thin. So, for example, it's way easier to recruit when you're already kind of a medium or large-sized guild. Recruiting comes very easily, but it's very difficult to recruit when you're small. So, if you have a couple of battalions, for example, or a couple of platoons that are really small, you know, you have like one on each faction or something like that with like 5 people that are the kernel that starts, it's going to be way harder to recruit there than it would be if all 10 of y'all were together and that was the seed, and that slowly grew into something healthier. So that's one of the big questions that comes is, you know, do we start on both factions, or some games have 3 factions or 4 even, or do we start with one and kind of let the overflow turn into the new project? And I would argue that the second method is more successful. But really in the end, you gotta be like, what do people like to do? Get them together with other people that like to do the same stuff and go from there. And the second aspect that determines how the directions that your guild goes in is going to be, what leaders do you have? Because you could have 20 some odd people that want to do PvP, but if you don't have a leader, it's just going to be aimless. And people are waiting for people to step up and take charge and lead people to victory. People are just waiting for that. So you've got to be like, where are our leaders? What did they like to do? Because those passionate people are really going to lead the way and are going to result in a lot of expansion and any kind of new initiatives that you guys do. So start with the small goals. Start with one team. That's all you need. If you have a team that meets up regularly and people enjoy each other's company, that's like 99% of the experience, is that friendship and the camaraderie that you get in a team. And then you get a team that gets bigger. And then you launch another team with one of the leaders from that previous team, right? And then you launch another one, and another one, and another one, and then eventually, just slowly over time, with steady, careful growth, you can end up being dual faction, PvP, PvE, casual, medium, hardcore.
Wake up.
All together in one organization. But that happens over the process of years, so don't expect that to happen overnight. Alright, and so the next slide, on slide 5, if you guys take a look at that, is what people are looking for when they're joining a guild. Is they're looking for solid, stable leadership. They're looking for structures that are taking care of people, and that's something that we can offer right off the bat. You know, guilds are dime a dozen. Why in the world would people want to join TAW? It's because of two things. One, the code of ethics, and two, structure and organization. People want to know that they're taken care of. People want to see that the systems are in place and that people are going to be able to easily do things that they want to do. And they want to have confidence in their leadership. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how we've adapted the structure to our game and some options for y'all that have different group sizes. So the division commander, division officer, commanding officer, and some of the admin leadership, it's really largely similar throughout the entirety of TAW. So the XO does attendance. That's really important. The staff officer is in charge of onboarding and all the drill instructors. That's really important. The training specialist is in charge of badges and achievement and recognizing people for their in-game prowess. And then we've adapted the senior banker as our server administrator because MMOs, they don't have servers. So resource management is really what the server administrator's job is. But what I really want to focus on and what really makes MMOs unique and has allowed us to have a really successful system in getting people involved is the field leadership. So let's start from the top here with the field specialist. If your guild or organization or clan or whatever unit you guys have has any kind of guild-wide achievements, or any kind of guild-wide leaderboard, or huge-scale activities like siege warfare type things where you need the whole guild all hands on deck to go over there. That's what the field specialist is in charge of. So in our game, at least, we have a guild leaderboard system where different activities add up different points towards the leaderboard. And so coordinating those activities is the field specialist's job. The field specialist is also in charge of the guild-wide activities that happen at the mandatories. So this is where you get those casuals, man. This is where those casuals can really get involved. They show up at the Sunday meeting, they hear about all the things that are going on, all the promotions, and then the guild-wide event. So for the hardcore people, yeah, they're going to be doing fire teams throughout the week, and they're going to be doing their raids, they're going to be doing their PvP groups or their arena teams or anything like that. And Qui-Gon's going to talk a little bit about teams later, so I won't focus on that too much. But what did the casuals get to do? Now, the casuals get involved here at the mandatory. So try to center those events around things that everybody can do. The next part of the field leadership puzzle is the platoon leader. So for ours, the platoon leader is the happiness guru. So drama management, make sure y'all have an officer for that. Because it happens. You know, we try to keep a drama-free environment the best we can in TAW, right? And the code of ethics is a really big part of that. But we got a lot of people, and sometimes people don't get along, and sometimes people need a little bit of help with the conflict resolution. So we've assigned platoon leader to be sort of human resources in that regard. And the platoon leader is also in charge of making sure that every single person in the guild is grouping up with people and is happy doing what they want to do. So whether it's the person that's like, hey, I play for 60 hours a week, I want to be best of the best, I want to group up with other people that are good, and we want to dominate the content. Alright, so the platooners are like, okay, noted. And then there's going to be the person that's like, yeah, I show up for the mandatory. I really enjoy just hanging out with people and chatting, and I don't really care about being hardcore or anything. I just want to hang out with fun people. Check. Noted. Right? So the platoon leader is making sure that every single person, all the way from the bottom of the casual spectrum to the most hardcore people you've ever met, is happy and doing the things that they want to do with other people. And the next important piece of the field leadership puzzle is the squad leader for us. So the squad leader is in charge of specific content management. So here on the diagram you can see we have a PvE squad leader and a PvP squad leader. And that person is really the one-stop shop to help people get involved in that particular activity. So for example, we have 4 raid teams of 8 people on Republic, and we have like 4 raid teams on Empire, right? So if a brand new person is coming into TAW and they're totally overwhelmed and they're like, oh my god, how do I get on a team? Look at all these people, look at this gigantic team speak. And we say to them, hey, if you want to get on a team for raids, contact the PvE squad leader. And so that squad leader, that person is going to know what teams are open, how intense those teams are, whether they're a casual team or a hardcore team, what times those teams run. There might be a weekend team, there might be a weekday team, prime time, morning, afternoon. And so that squad leader is the guy or gal to know what is going on and what team might be appropriate for this brand new person coming in. So you need to have one person is in charge of member happiness in general, and then another person that is in charge of content specific and kind of the triage person for getting a person onto teams. And finally there at the bottom is the fire team leaders. So the fire team leaders are the folks that are leading on the field. They're in charge of setting standards for their team. They're in charge of making sure that their team is successful on the field. So you're looking for charismatic people that are good at the game and can give really good direction to the people that are trying to get content done. This person is the bedrock of the team, the one that's calling the shots. So you need a person that is in charge of the fire teams in that regard, that is not doing that much administrative work, that is solely focused on being successful at whatever endeavors people are trying to do in the game. So the reason why I'm focusing on this so much is because this is really the secret to the success here, is the team system and having leadership in layers that helps take care of the members and making sure that they're happy. Alright, so all this structure is great and all, but if you don't have people to fill it in, it doesn't mean anything. So check out slide 6. If you do not do this, none of the rest of this stuff that Qui-Gon Jinn and Juice are talking about matters. People have to recruit. You have to recruit, recruit, recruit. And I know in Vanguard that is something of a mantra because you're trying to fill your team, right? But that doesn't stop as soon as you launch to the core. You gotta keep recruiting because attrition is just a thing. I mean, people fall off the face of the earth all the time. Even people that you're like, oh, they are great TAW, they're awesome leadership, and they're going to be around forever. Well, you cannot take that for granted. People fall off the face of the earth all the time, whether it's people getting bored of the game, real life stuff. Sometimes the summertime people drop off, sometimes when school starts people drop off, and that's just a fact of life. And so you have to keep recruiting always to keep up with that demand. And so that is the responsibility of every single member, not just drill instructors, not just officers. Every single person. You know, welcome to TAW, you've been in TAW for a couple of weeks. That person can totally recruit other people that they know to the guild. You know, they're like, hey, I found this new guild and it's awesome and I want to invite my friends. Heck yeah, get them on in. So make sure that everybody in your guild has invite privileges, okay? So that's really important. So that means that every single member should know a little bit about the guild. And frequently asked questions are things like, how big is your guild? Because people are looking for an active guild. They don't want to be in a ghost town, so they want to know how many people are in it. So you can have people look at the roster on TAW.net and be like, oh, we have 78 people on Republic and blank on Empire, whatever. And so people will know how many people they got, and that's really important. Things like, when do teams run? And we'll talk a little bit about the member handbook later. But having a resource that has a list of all the teams and when they run is very useful because people are looking for raid teams or PvP teams and things like that. So having that resource available so that members know, oh, okay, yeah, well, we got like 3 or 4 PvE teams. and things like that. And then some basic requirements. So whenever I'm recruiting somebody, I always put this here list, which is our requirements: TeamSpeak, mic, 15 years old, application at taw.net, attending the guild meetings Sundays at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, and being a nice person. Bam! And you get used to that after a while. You just get used to typing that. Those are the basic requirements to be in there. And so if the person says, oh yeah, okay, that sounds pretty good, then get them a guild invite as a trial member. Another way to recruit people is if you're on the capital city ship or planet or whatever, Ironforge for the World of Warcraft people are going to be looking for guilds all the time. So whenever somebody says, looking for guild, I'll say, what are you looking for in a guild? And if what they want is aligned with what we got, then you can tell them about the requirements. And, it's sort of a matchmaker type thing. And that's the first thing you got to ask, is what are you looking for in a guild? And then the second part is organically from groups. So if you are grouping up with somebody and you do a PvP match or something like that, and there's an ungilded person in there, and you guys win, right after that win, go, hey, send them a little PM that says, hey, nice job in that war zone, nice job in that PvP match, nice job in that operation or something. What are you by chance looking for a guild? Because first of all, they're associating that positive experience. You guys won the war zone. You were in the war zone with them. They are associating winning with you. You have won that war zone, and you thought that they did a good job? And you want them to join the guild? All those things are like a perfect storm of, oh wow, I really want to join this guild. So that's another way to do it organically. And then the forums are really important. So a link there, I'll let you guys check that out later. Forums are a really important way to recruit people on the outside. If you have a nice looking forum post with your groups on it and when they run and the requirements, and it looks clean and nice, and it doesn't just have a lot of promises, but it actually has, these are our groups and when they run, it's not like, yeah, we got PvE teams and PvP teams, whatever. You actually have something specific on there that people can sink their teeth into. They're going to come like flies. And then you got to remember, sometimes people want to try before they buy. So give them a trial membership. And so we'll have people that haven't filled out an application at taw.net yet, and that is totally okay. Get their feet in the door. So get them in as a trial. But you can't have them be trials forever. And I've seen this time and time again all over TAW, where people have like a bazillion trial members that haven't done the application at taw.net, and that's not what you want. You want people to get a little taste, a little free trial action. And then if they don't fill out an application in 7 days, boot them, because you want active people. You don't want rocks. So if you need more information about recruiting tips and that kind of thing, go ahead and click that link down there, the more recruiting tips, and it kind of goes into a little bit more detail as to how to start conversations with people to try to get them in. So I've rambled on long enough, and I'm going to transfer it over back to Qui-Gon, and he's going to talk a little bit about teams, which is a really, really important part of the experience. So after you.
Yes, so like Zoloff said, getting members in the door is important, but what's really important is sustaining that active membership. And how we've done this successfully is teams. Every division, regardless of what game you play, is at its core built around playing a game, pursuing in-game content, and dedicating to that, working together over our TeamSpeak server. For MMOs, this specifically takes place normally with either player versus player teams, player versus environment teams. Teams that are designed to do these certain bits of content that are modules or are options within the persistent world. What we've learned and what we've seen is that people who get onto teams stay longer in TAW. They're more dedicated, they're more active, they become cornerstones. There's absolutely a room for people who are around, casual, part of the community, but those members, many end up coming and going very quickly as opposed to the ones that are on a dedicated schedule. players can run throughout the week, commit to a time that is good for them, and then group up with other players to engage in content regularly at that time. So we've got teams that run 3, some run even 4 nights a week for 2 to 3 hours at a time, which is a ton of activity and a great foundation for a healthy guild to build on. It makes the big guild seem less intimidating, breaks it down into a more manageable social chunk for people to have a handle on, and it also builds dedication as they're making a commitment to other people and sticking in at that time. Teams is the best way to get people organized, regularly involved in gaming, and out there playing the game, having fun. And so you need to make it a straightforward process for getting people onto teams. The information needs to be clear. The teams need to run when they say they're going to run. And you need to have, like Zoloff said, leadership who supports those team leaders, a structure that makes sure those are held accountable and still running effectively and efficiently. Now, there's a lot of different ways to get people onto teams or to run things. What we have found traditionally in Star Wars is the most successful thing is having autonomous teams. I'll talk about what exactly those are in a minute, but I just want to real quickly talk about a common temptation that I see a lot of people try with things, and that's using sign-up sheets. Sign-ups are nice, they look organized, and it's fun to be able to throw a fancy link out there to people. But the problem is you're starting with a blank slate and saying, oh, does anybody want to show up at this time for something? And you'll have one person who's like, oh yeah, Thursday's at 6. One person, oh, Thursday's at 8:30. Somebody else, oh, Wednesday's at 7. And you start to have little dots scattered all over the boards. You're starting with an empty roster, expecting that no one's there and hoping people will come in and fill up. Contrast that with a team where you have leadership who says, hey, Tuesday, Thursday, Monday, 8:30 Eastern, we're going to be there. We're going to run till 11. And you have my commitment that I'm going to be here with my team. I have needed some people join me. It's a solid foundation. It builds on commitment. And it's a much sturdier way to move forward and to develop people. I want to help everybody understand what we mean by autonomous teams, because this has really enabled our division to grow and to cater to diverse play types and play styles. An autonomous team, we obviously operate within the bounds of TAW leadership, TAW code of ethics, all of those things. But team leaders are going to run different teams differently. They're going to have different objectives. They're going to take on different content. They're going to have different schedules. What that happens is that your team leader is in charge of creating the standards for the team. When is it going to run? What's expected of people? Whether that's attendance, performance, preparation, skill level, progression goals, whatever it might be, the team leader sets those expectations outright. This ends up helping members out a lot because you avoid situations where someone is getting pushed into content that they feel overmatched against and they feel just frustrated by because they're very new and it's complex content that they're just banging their heads against. Or vice versa, you have someone who's an extremely experienced, skilled player, really wants to push themselves to the limits and be challenged, and they're sitting around having to teach a rotating cast of characters how to do basic content that they could be doing in their sleep. An autonomous team has a specific goal and a specific commitment to one another. And through that, you're able to specialize and take care of members in the way that they best want. Obviously, those friendships you have from running with a dedicated team.
User joined your channel.
The core that I still run with these days. I think we've been together as a team for almost 2 years now. So you really you build friendships, build relationships, and that binds you all closer together and makes for just an all-around fun gaming environment. In having that different diversity, it's also great for players with an atypical play style. Particularly in a game like MMOs, where there's opportunities to do things at all hours of the day, only dependent on can you get a group together to do the content. It allows people who might be great TAW material but have complex or challenging schedules, they can get support to find other people who have schedules like them and commit to that time and seed off a new team that is a lunch break afternoons. We're going to, on our lunch break, run war zones for an hour, something like that. There's a lot of possibilities when you empower your members to do what they want, when they want. And through being specific with your goals, being specific with your team standards, being specific in all of those things, it'll help members get into a good fit, a good situation, and create happy members that stick around and then promulgate into the future generations of TAW. If you look down at the bottom, there's an example of a variety of autonomous teams. That's a link to our member handbook. You can scroll down a couple pages. We just have a list of all of the different variety of teams. So you can look at Republic PvP, Empire PvE, Republic PvE. All these different teams have their own schedules. They have leadership who's committed to running at those times. They have different goals. You have diversity from casual, hardcore, ranked arenas. These are all clusters of people who are running in various sizes of groups that form the foundation from which all of our other activity springs forward. The people that are on those teams are committed to 7 or 15 other members and are staying active, staying involved, and playing the game, and really bolstering our ranks within TAW. That's the fruit we're trying to harvest from developing autonomous teams and letting teams set their goals and really have at it. The way we've implemented teams ties into one of our key leadership principles. If you look with me on the next slide, work with your game, not against it. We use this autonomous team system in Star Wars because we see that there's a lot of different play styles, a lot of different play options, a lot of flexibility allowed by our game. And from understanding that, we've then coached our leadership and built our structures up to cater to that. When you have a game in front of you, there's a lot of possibilities when you have people that are willing to get together and play. What that means is you're really only limited by the activity and the desires of your members. If somebody wants to try something new, try leading something, and it's not in violation of TAW policy or the Code of Ethics, say yes whenever possible. Being successful with managing a division, managing a battalion, managing a guild, it's all about empowering other leaders to step up to the plate and join you in the work. Finding other people who are willing to be servant leaders also and be in the front leading with you. If someone wants to start up a new team that's running at 1 in the morning, if they want to run at that time, awesome. I'll support them and get them set up in place. And if there's other people who want to find that team run at that time, they'll build that core together. And then all of a sudden, I'm not going to be up at 1 in the morning, but great for them. They've started the core of something new, something great that's pulling more people in and engaging more players within the community. It's working with the game means being flexible, paying attention to content, and empowering your members to continue to take ownership. You need to look at what your game offers. So like I talked about earlier, the different types of content for us we had to assess in Star Wars. But then that also means look at what's going on, what's going to be going on. A lot of games will provide a roadmap for upcoming content. MMO games are really content driven when there's new dungeons, new war zones, new content coming out that generates a lot of buzz and can be a real focal point for players. A wise old leader once told me content is king, And really, when it comes to getting people in game and playing, I think that maxim really runs true. Figuring out how your members are playing, what they want to do, and supporting them in doing that and helping them get together with one another so that they take ownership in that process is what working with the game is all about. Don't make things more complicated than they need to be. At the end of the day, we're playing a game, and it's important that you support those people, support your members in
Microphone activated.
pursuing that goal. Letting your members take ownership whenever someone's willing to step up to the plate keeps things fresh, keeps things energetic, and it keeps your overall leadership and structure focused on what's happening in the game at that moment, because it empowers your members to help you keep up with it and keep it relevant. Next thing I'm going to talk about is the process of trial and error, and for us it's really been a tremendous source of how we move forward, how we try new ideas to stay fresh with the game. So if you'll get with me on that. As a matter of fact, our fire team system that we use now, that's really the bedrock for our in-game activities, that started out as a trial experiment. All games are going to have patching, changing environments, challenges, and things of that like. But this is particularly true in MMOs. With an evolving game, your guild needs to be able to shift, to manage, to respond to what's going on at the time in the game, how players are playing at that time, and what your membership is wanting to do. What that means is you have to be very comfortable with trying new things and being willing to depart from what you've always done, because in a dynamic environment, the same thing isn't necessarily going to work indefinitely. This can be a really intimidating process to take risks like that, especially if you're sitting there with a 200-person division, all sorts of activities going on that you can feel really good about. But if you allow yourself to get complacent and not keep trying new things and finding better ways to serve your members, you're going to end up going stagnant and having a lot of challenges. We like to manage this change process by going with 30-day initiatives. If somebody comes up with a new idea of something they're wanting to try, they take that through their chain of command. They formalize what the idea is that they want to pursue, and then start setting up boundaries for an experiment of what they want to try to do. Be it, instead of using signups, I want to try starting a fire team that is autonomous, has its own standards, runs with a set certain of people on a set schedule.
User left your channel. Over.
Great. That's their idea. That's what their boundaries are for it. Let's give it a try for the next 30 days and see how it works. 30-day trials are a great way to try new ideas that you might even be very uncomfortable with, because in gaming, 30 days can feel like a long time, but it goes by quickly, and when you sit, it gives you a chance to sit down and look at it at the end and say, okay, what have we learned from this? Has there been good things? Has there been bad things? Is this something we want to keep as we implemented it? Is this something that we want to just toss out entirely? Is this something that, let's take these two facets of it, but then modify it to be something entirely different? Or just slight tweaks to keep being better. Setting those experimental boundaries and making a commitment with your leadership to go back and revisit your new ideas makes that process less intimidating, less daunting, and doesn't tie you down to a new course of action, so that you can try something radically different even if you want to, and give it a chance to succeed or a chance to fail. You have to learn if something's not working so that you can then put together better ideas to take care of your members in the future. So those are some of our driving principles and ideas, and Zolof's going to talk a little bit more about how specifically those ideas trickle down in your day-to-day with your leadership.
Alright, if you guys log into slide 10, we'll talk a little bit about leaders as being cogs in the machine. So in a 24/7, 365 type of environment, it can't just be one person that's running the whole show. That is not a thing. And we've seen it in other guilds, and we've seen it even in TAW, where one person is trying to be the be-all, end-all to everything, and that ain't going to work out. So you need to definitely have an entire team that is working together. And that means training instructors, drill instructors, fire team leaders, all the way on up to the division officer and division commander, all working together to cover the needs of that 24/7, 365 type of deal. Every single person has a very specific job that they need to do to help things work. And if one person isn't doing what they need to be doing, then things can deteriorate rather quickly. So, for example, if the PvP squad leader decides that they're just gonna go on a 3-week vacation and not tell anybody, that means that any people that's coming into the guild, they are trying to contact this person to get on teams, and they're not able to do that because this person was supposed to be the guy or the lady or whatever to get people onto teams. So each individual person makes a huge difference, and each person really is a part of the whole system. So the division leader, it can be good, but it also can be a little bit rough if one of the links in the chain breaks. Each person needs to have very specific defined roles, and they need to know what specifically is expected. And so part of what we've done in Star Wars Division that has been really helpful is the standard operating procedures. So if you click that blue link there down at the bottom, this is basically if all of the experienced leadership of Star Wars Division mysteriously disappeared, somebody could pick up this manual and be like, okay, I know what to do. I need to do these bullet points, and it's going to be okay. And part of knowing what to do is going to the academy class, first of all, and learning the basics of the position. But every division has its own subtleties, and so for your guys' divisions, you guys should make one of these too that is division-specific, so that, for example, brand new platoon leader. So let's scroll down to platoon leader. Alright, platoon leader. So we got a brand new person that's going to get promoted to platoon leader. What in the world are they supposed to do? They can look at this and be like, oh, okay, alright, so if I do these things, it's going to be okay. I will have done my thing. And the CO, who's the platoon leader's direct chain of command and supervisor, now has kind of a list of expectations for them. So the CO can be like, alright, is the platoon leader doing all these things? Yes, yes, yes. Okay, sweet. They're doing their job. Awesome. But if they didn't have specific expectations, then how will they know if the platoon leader is just sitting on their position? Because, we've all been there. So how do you know if your people are doing what you need to be doing? And you need to have specific things that they should be doing and kind of a checklist type of thing. And it's the same for all these positions, and I'm definitely not going to go over them all. But I would really recommend, taking a look at this and adapting it to your game and your division. And then the last part of, really fostering good leadership and having leaders work together is each person should be thinking about how can things be better? How can we improve things? How can we make a stronger guild? If a drill instructor is thinking, you know what, the way that we do with the trial members in the guild versus onboarding, I think that we need to extend the time that we allow them, or something like that. A drill instructor is thinking about these things. How can we make the drill instructor office more efficient? How can we make it better? Field leadership going, I think that we should have a casual team that everybody joins in the beginning and then we move it to other things. So what the point is, not those specific instances, but that these leaders are trying to think of how do we improve stuff, because it's not enough just to be content with what you're doing right now. You always got to be thinking about how we can make things better for the members, because that's what they're signing up for, is a guild that is going to adapt to the game, is going to adapt to their needs, and is constantly thinking of ways to get better. Alright, so let's check in on slide 11 for the nitty-gritty. So this is all the behind-the-scenes stuff that the members don't see, but it is crucial to keeping things afloat. So you need systems, routines, documentation, easy ways to communicate, so that everybody is on the same page. So, for example, we use Google Docs pretty extensively, and you've seen some of them already throughout this presentation. But the Google Docs, if you click that link there, this is an example of our documents for 1st Battalion. So for the platoon leader, the person that, remember, is in charge of making sure that every single member is happy and doing things that they want to do, this is theirs. This is their baby right here. So for 1st Battalion, here are all the list of all the people that we got in there and what they like to do and whether they're on a team or not and that kind of thing. And it might seem like it's a lot, but once a person is sort of taken care of and on a team and doing what they need to do, it doesn't really need to be updated that much. But when you have new people coming in and new people dropping off due to attrition or other reasons, this needs to stay updated. And so by the platoon leader really keeping track of all this kind of stuff, the CEO can be like, all right, good, everybody's getting taken care of, everybody's kind of getting on board with the group. Oh, this person's not in a group yet, let's get them in a group, and so on and so forth. And so this is kind of the way that the CEO can look and be like, all right, things are getting done. This is good. And then if you want to take a look at, see down at the bottom there are a bunch of tabs. Click on the one that says Havoc Squad. All right, so take a look. So this is a fire team roster. This is one of the examples. You know, you have the name of the team, you have what type of team it is, the mission statement where the standards are listed, gear standard, tryout standard, and the like that Qui-Gon was talking about earlier, who the leader is, who's on the team, whether they're a main or a reserve, another important thing for a team leader, their role, and their how to contact them, and their schedule there at the bottom, which is also really important. So this is kind of just an example of a team webpage sort of template. And what this allows the fire team leader to do is this fire team leader, if they want to move somebody to reserve or move somebody to main or add somebody, they can do that. Whereas on the TAW.net roster, only admin leaders can do that. So this really helps the junior NCOs have ownership over kind of this process and them deciding who's on the team and who's not on the team and different criteria for that. So, I mean, for any of these documents, use what you like and don't use what you don't like. But this is something that's been helpful for us. And this also helps the platoon leader and squad leader and the admin leader see that, oh, okay, so this team is doing stuff, this team is getting updated regularly. It's sort of a way to be like, is your fire team leader actually doing something? So there you go. All right, and so going back to the PowerPoint, as part of the routines is what needs to be done regularly. So admin leaders need to be checking the rosters, updating the rosters, making sure that the in-game guild is clean, member notes up to date, that kind of thing. DIs need to be looking at the trial people. You know, so just as examples of things that you do daily, things that you do weekly, and people get really into routines and doing the right things, and so nothing falls through the cracks. So everybody kind of needs to have expectations for, oh, what should I be doing each week? How do I know if my squad leaders are doing a good job? Because they're doing this each week. And then the next part is, yeah, so these systems are awesome, but if our members don't know how to get on a team, all the systems in the world can be in place, and if they can't do it, then they're not getting involved. They're not taking advantage. So you have to make sure that the systems that you set up are easy enough for a person can get involved. So for example, if a person is joining TAW and they don't know that they need to talk to the squad leader to get on a team, they're just going to be hanging out in limbo and never getting on a team because nobody ever told them how to get involved. So that kind of thing. Or how do you donate to the guild bank or things like that. So our solution to that problem is the member handbook. So this is like super duper important. Every division should have one of these. So this is basically a guide to navigating your division in a successful way. What's expected of me? How do I get involved? Who do I talk to get on these teams? It's laid out here just plain as day. Yeah, where do I put my tunes? All the teams, as we saw earlier, all the teams and when they run. Who do I talk to about stuff? So if you have a question about the guild bank, you talk to the guild banker. If you have a question about onboarding, you talk to the SO, and so on and so forth. So this is all laid out. It's making it easy for members to know how to get the information that they need, so that they're not having to ask in Fleet Lounge, or they're not having to ask in guild chat or something how to navigate. It's right here, all in this document, anything that the members would need to know to be successful and navigate the system. Now, it's really easy for people to get involved when you got like a battalion of 20 people, but when you got a battalion of 100 people, sometimes people can get lost, and so these kinds of things help people not get lost. Alright, so I'm going to pass it back on to Qui-Gon to finish up.
Yeah, just to wrap up and recap, hopefully something that you all can see throughout all of this is that taking care of your members is number one. It's your top priority. It's what it's all about. The most gifted division staff with the most dedicated COs and battalion staff underneath them. The best leadership at TAW is not leading anything if they don't have members who are participating, who are gaming, who are having fun and going about their business. As you're assessing your division, as you're assessing your game, as you're assessing your guild, you have to be thinking about what are members doing, how are members having fun, how are they playing the game. When you keep your focus on those things and allow yourself to grow focused on that, you're going to be building from the ground up based on the core of what we're about: gaming, having fun, friendship, honor, integrity, fair play, loyalty. That's going to be a recipe for success. From that, you think to the future: how do we take care of new members? Who's going to fill my spot if I move up? Who's going to fill my subordinate spots if they move up? Who's going to be the future of leadership that's going to continue to take ownership so that running the division, running the battalion, running the guild isn't just the work of one person. Having dynamic systems that respond, are flexible, and assess as the game changes and as your members' demands change are key to being relevant and key to keeping a membership engaged and active that takes ownership in operating the battalion, division, guild, and makes for a much more energetic, enjoyable, and successful environment for a division to grow within a game. One last principle I just want to leave you all with is take care of your most dedicated first. Take your most dedicated members first. Especially if you start to get large, you're going to have a variety of play styles. You're going to have some members who really just want to show up for the mandatory, hang out in TeamSpeak, do a little bit of stuff here and there. And you can run yourself and your officers into burnout chasing after casual players. But at the end of the day, you have to listen to what your members are telling you, what their play styles are, and how they like to game. If you focus your energy and your leadership's energy on providing a good environment for the most dedicated members, those people who are already dedicated gamers, they'll buy in, they'll be your future leaders who will also help take up the cause, and then it's trickle-down effect. Those people who are really dedicated will keep an eye out for the other people and just continue to build up and enhance that community feel you have. So if you look at that last slide, just a couple quick highlights of take-home points. Recruiting is important. You need members. You need your lifeblood. You absolutely have to have people within your division, battalion, guild, however you want to look at it. Whatever perspective you bring, you've got to have people. You've got to bring them in the door. You've got to recruit them. Everyone starts somewhere. Teams are really important because it's a structured and dedicated way to get your membership playing the game. It builds up dedication and focuses people on the reason for being here, having fun and gaming. At every level of member activity, you need to have detailed and clear expectations as a way to avoid drama and as a way to specialize to make sure that each piece of the puzzle is fitting like it's supposed to, that people are doing their jobs the way they're supposed to, that teams are doing what they want to do and playing what they want to do. And by having this flexible mindset, by trying new things, by being member focused, at the end of the day, you're going to have a dynamic, fun environment where members can come in, enjoy themselves, and gradually find a way to make it a home. and then they step up and perpetuate the cycle by being your future leadership. So that's the end of our formal presentation portion. I'm going to kick it back over to Sentinel Command now, and I believe we'll have time for Q&A, so you can pick our brains and we can hopefully drop some more knowledge on you guys.
Nice, guys. We'll move into the question and answer session now. But before we do that, everybody give Qui-Gon Jinn Juice and Zoloft a big hoo-ah. It was a great presentation.
Yeah, good job, guys.
Microphone activated.
All right. Now, how they want the question and answer session to go is basically just type your call sign into the TAW University chat tab, and I'm gonna keep a stack or a list of folks, and we'll call on you, and you can give your comment or question, and then folks will respond. Feel free to, if you have an experience or with another MMO unit, or really any unit experience is viable here. So if you've been a leader or a member in any other unit, feel free to give a comment too. It doesn't have to be a question. We'll go straight into that. So the first person I got is Odoc.
How does Star Wars handle any flack from the rest of the gaming community about playing both factions?
So, go ahead.
Well, in Arcade, we have a Haranya faction and we have a Nuian faction, and because we have both sides, I mean, we are getting flack of the yin yang that we're playing both sides. You're being traitors to your side. How are you guys getting around that? I mean, I know you guys practically run Prophecy of the Five, but we don't have that luxury.
So
Yeah.
your server reputation and how you fit in with a server can be a really awkward and challenging part of leading an MMO division. In Star Wars, we're pretty fortunate, as it's a pretty common practice that people have characters on both sides and, bounce around back and forth. But I think TAW can be the whipping post
Buddy
at
joined
times
your
for
channel.
our game server, because we are big, we're recognizable, and we don't go anywhere. So I guess my advice is
wake
kind of
up.
look at how it affects your members and your recruitment
Buddy
and the
left your
environment you
channel.
create there, and focus on building that positive environment that brings something that the rest of the server doesn't have. Instead of having it be a strength, instead of having it be a weakness, I should say have it be a strength and present it as a strength. And at the end of the day, you have to do what's best for your battalion, what's best for your division, and what's best